Today we examine Romans 1:16 and 17, and here Paul writes, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek or Gentiles." Now verse 17 says this, "For in it, the gospel message, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith for faith. As it is written, the righteous shall live by faith." How could we be ashamed of such a powerful message of salvation? How could we shrink from the world when we have the hope of Christ to give away to them? And when someone is proud of something or unashamed, they boldly share about it. Think of the joy and pride of a new parent or even a grandparent in showing off the pictures and videos of the new addition to their family. They're very proud. And when we get a new job, when we get a promotion, or even when our team wins a big game or a championship, we proudly and unashamedly share the news with the world. We brag about what has occurred and we align ourselves with it and we endorse it. And I'm sure you and I can identify with these earthly examples, and how much more should we be unashamed of what Christ has done for us eternally? How much more should we brag on the power and goodness of God? Now, in these verses we've read, we can clearly see that Paul is not ashamed of the message of Christ, the good news. Why? Because in his message, we find the very power of God for salvation for all who believe, for Jews and Gentiles. The very righteousness of God is revealed in this message, which gives us as believers a right standing with God. His righteousness is revealed from faith to faith. When we believe and are saved, it is by grace through faith. And living each and every day as we are molded and made into the likeness of Christ, we do so by faith. Righteousness, our right standing before God, righteousness in our lives is by faith from start to finish. In these days, believers may have been tempted to think that due to lack of numbers or of political power or of fame, it might be reason to be ashamed of their message, but that's far from the truth. The gospel message has saving power for all who will believe, no matter their station in life. And that's something that Paul wanted to make sure his readers were aware of. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, for the gospel, he had been imprisoned. Paul had been chased out and smuggled out of towns, and he'd been considered a fool and even stoned. Still, he was unashamed and undeterred in sharing his message. And since Rome was the center of political power and of pagan religion, he aimed to preach there, and nothing could sway him otherwise. He was unashamed. Because of the power in his message that Jesus lived and died and rose again, we can be unashamed. And because of his forgiveness in our lives, we can boast about his goodness to the entire world. And because of his grace, his unmerited favor towards us, we can brag on his work in our lives. He died for us, so now we can live for him in gospel power, seeing others saved as well. And so may we live today unashamed of the gospel in our lives. A life lived this way will stand out and be a beacon of hope for the world that we live in.